Today we are going to be talking about something that is still slightly new to the real estate game here in Northeast Indiana, and you might have talked about it already with your real estate agent and you might have not, but if you have questions, I have answers. Hi, my name is Lauren South. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Realty in Northeast Indiana, the Fort Wayne area, and I can be your go-to for all things real estate. So today I'm going to talk about some of the changes that happened last July of 2024 in regards to the big C word, commissions. So it used to be that on the listing contract, when someone would go to sell their house, they were agreeing to pay a certain commission amount. And on the listing contract here in Indiana, it split the commission between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. It had your total at the top, and then listing agent gets this, buyer's agent gets this. That was the way it always was. So then when a seller brought their house to the market, the first thing a buyer's agent bringing a buyer was going to be looking for was, okay, what is the buyer's agent commission that is going to be paid by the seller? What are they advertising that they're willing to pay me as the buyer's agent for bringing them, representing my buyer for them? That has all changed. In July of 2024, now in the state of Indiana, as of March 28th, 2025 anyway, we have one side on one contract and one side on the other contract. So let's talk to our sellers first. You have a listing contract that is presented to you by your realtor. In that listing contract, it states, this is my listing agent, this is how much I am being charged, and this is how much I am paying as the seller of my home. This is how much I'm paying my listing agent. On the other side of things, you might be still wondering, well, how does the buyer's agent get paid now? I'm glad you asked. There is a buyer's agency contract now. So just like sellers have always had to hire their listing agent if they were going to work with a realtor to sell their house, now the buyers have to sign a contract with a buyer's agent for that buyer's agent's representation of that specific buyer. Now, this buyer's agent contract is not necessarily new, but at least in the Fort Wayne area, it is not something that was required. And I would say not a very high percentage of agents used a buyer's agent's contract prior to July of 2024 when it became law that we all had to use it. So in the buyer's contract, it is stating that the buyer is hiring their buyer's agent and they are charging X percent. Now, the contract does talk about alternative ways that the buyer's agent compensation could be paid. But at the end of the day, the buyer understands that their buyer's agent is not working for free, right? There is an agreed upon fee between the buyer and the buyer's agent. And that whole piece really came into play across the board less than a year ago in July of 2024. So now you may be asking, how is this buyer getting their commission paid or not paid? How is the buyer's agent getting paid at the end of the day? Well, there are options. And the main thing that you need to know is it has now become really a negotiation piece. So let's say I list a house at 123 North Main Street, and my sellers have been on the market for 30 days. We've had good showings, but no offers in hand so far. Then we have an offer come in, and in that offer, it specifically states that the buyer is asking the sellers to pay a X percent buyer's agency compensation, buyer's agent compensation. That is part of their offer. Let's say that that offer also was a lower purchase price than the list price. Well, the seller might say, I'm willing to pay a buyer's agent compensation, but I don't have enough room in my net dollar that I need to walk with to pay what they're asking and also take a lower purchase price than what I have it listed for. It all becomes a negotiation. It's another piece of the net. It's just handled differently. So what this video is really meant to focus on is the paperwork side of things and the understanding of the listing contract only stating the listing agent's compensation on it. The house gets listed, buyers come in, the buyers all have contracts with their buyer's agents, their buyer's realtors or real estate brokers, and there is an agreed upon amount between the buyer and the buyer's agent. That amount is most likely what is going to be on the offer for the home that buyer tries to purchase. So that is brought to the seller saying, hey, we want to buy your home, but as part of our offer, we are asking you to pay my buyer's agent. Now, in a situation where the seller might say they'll pay half of the commission that's been asked for, the buyer is then responsible to make up that difference for their buyer's agent at closing. So that's something that always is still part of the contract between the buyer and the buyer's agent. Maybe it is open to negotiation again if the seller's not willing to pay the whole thing, but at the end of the day, the buyer's agent does have a contract with that buyer for that specific fee. If you want to have a better time, easier time, need some help understanding real estate in Northeast Indiana, understanding how these documents are working and who is best representing you, I'd love to be that girl for you. I'm your relational realtor, and I'd love to talk to you soon.